The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show. On this Friday, March 20th, almost at the end of March, it's pretty amazing. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me today. All right, so we're going to get into discussion about the strategy in the war in Iran, and in particular, addressing some the legitimate concerns that are being raised about the war, and we'll talk about that. And we've got a bunch of other topics to cover after that, but we will definitely start with that. So let's start. I've got an editorial here that was published in the New York Times by David French, who is a conservative, never Trumpist, but I think this is a good editorial because I think it strikes the right balance and the right tone in terms of critiquing the war, and I think it has. I think it needs to be addressed, and let me just say. Everything I'm seeing from Trump, we'll get to this in a little bit, everything I'm seeing from the military preparations and what the military is doing, everything I'm seeing suggests that I have been right for the last 2+ weeks in that Trump and the military went into this campaign with no strategic plan on dealing with the Straits of Hormuz. Now, they're dealing with it now because they have no choice, but they don't have the assets in place. They don't have the what they need in place because they didn't have a strategy, because they didn't plan, because they didn't prepare for this, and that comes from the top. So I don't blame the generals, at the top. Straits of Hormuz ultimately going to be the key to this. To this war and to the consequence of it, and to really the fate of the global economy, including the United States economy, over the next few months, years, and the reality is that that this administration had no plan for that. Nothing. All right. So I'm going to read you from the editorial because I think it's well said, well written. Might as well read from it and then go from there. This is David French. President Trump has created the conditions for another quagmire in the Middle East. And the question is whether American military excellence, absolutely, can rescue him from his own impulsiveness and incompetence. I completely agree. Here is the present situation in a nutshell. The United States and Israel have established absolute air dominance over the nation of Iran. In a few short days, our combined forces have destroyed Iran's ability to protect its own airspace, having killed much of Iran's senior military and civilian leadership, and have sunk much of Iran's navy. At the same time, the United States and Israel are damaging Iran's nuclear program from the air, and they're destroying Iran's ability to manufacture and deploy ballistic missiles. They're also attacking the internal security forces that maintain the Iranian regime's hold on the population. The intention of the air campaign is clear: to destroy the regime's capability to harm its neighbors while also creating the conditions for a revolution on the ground. If that's the extent of the military mission, the military is accomplishing it with remarkable efficiency. Absolutely. Iran is being badly battered. Even if the war ended today, it would take years for the Iranian military to fully recover from those losses it has suffered so far. While Iran's drones and missiles have inflicted damage on American forces and allies, that damage is far less than what the United States and Israel inflicted on Iran. There are no confirmed reports of Iranians shooting down any American or Israeli aircraft. It has destroyed a number of drones and maybe one airplane. And it hasn't yet sunk a single American or Israeli warship. So why then, and this is the key, I think, so why then is Trump lashing out at American allies Why was he shocked that Iran struck Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates and Kuwait in response to American attacks? Perhaps the answer lies in a Wall Street Journal report from last Friday. According to the Journal, General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, warned Trump that Iran might attempt to close the Straits of Hormuz, and Trump shrugged off the threat and launched the attack anyway. He told his team that Tehran would likely capitulate before closing the straits, the Journal wrote. And even if Iran tried, the U.S. military could handle it. But no strategy was put in place, I add. But Iran did not capitulate. There's no real sign the regime is in danger of falling. Maybe there's some signs. Instead, it has effectively closed the strait, and it's reportedly done so without choking off its own oil exports. In other words, while other nations can't ship oil through the straits, Iran still is. Iran may not be able to seriously damage Israel with its missiles, though a few missiles have gone through Israel's defenses and killed Israeli citizens. Very few, I would add. And it may not be able to sink American ships, but it can potentially plunge the world economy into a state of crisis. It could well emerge from the conflict with its regime intact and perhaps even more hardline, and its power over the world economy undiminished. In a recent post, the Institute for the Study of War described the problem well. Quote, a weakened regime that remains in power after this war would be able to disrupt shipping whenever and for however long it pleases with little effort if its current relatively limited strike campaign on shipping proves sufficient to cause the United States and Israel to surrender. A failure to demonstrate the will and ability to deny Iran's ability to disrupt traffic, it wrote, will make it enormously harder to deter Iran from future disruptions. That's the logic that leads to a quagmire. If America declares victory now, when the Iranian regime is still in power and the strait is closed, then Iran perversely can claim it won. It took a huge punch, absorbed the blow, and still forced America to climb down. It employed its ultimate weapon, closing the strait, and America had no effective answer. And this would commit to opening the strait and keeping it open by force, and the U.S. may well find itself in yet another open-ended, costly conflict with at least some American soldiers on Iranian soil. This would be a war on our enemy's terms and terrain, with the potential of slowly but surely inflicting casualties and costs on the American military until we grow tired of the conflict and leave. Now that, in my view, is just straight out defeatism, right? But he's right. No strategy. And this is a choke point that has massive consequences. And this was not hard. This is not hard to figure out. During the Iran-Iraq War, the Iranians closed the Straits of Hormuz. And the United States under Reagan, was it Reagan? Yeah, under Reagan, established a convoy where the U.S. Navy escorted ships out of the Straits of Hormuz, in order to deliver oil and natural gas. Well, I don't think it was natural gas in those days, just oil to the world. But the United States almost lost one ship when it hit a mine. Its hull, damaged. 60 sailors were injured. I mean, it's a major operation, and it's a very difficult one. And Iran is, in terms of the weapons it has available to do damage in the Hormuz Straits, is far, 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 far more advanced than it was back then. So, this is a challenge to take French on. The only way to cut the Gordian knot is with a military miracle. I don't think it's a miracle. A fast campaign with minimal casualties that can quickly reopen the straits, minimize harm to the international economy, and leave Iran almost entirely toothless, unable to inflict military or economic damage on its foes. Trump's recklessness has left the United States with few good options. Indeed, the dilemma America now faces is a perfect illustration of why Trump should have taken his case for war to Congress and the American people before he fired the first missile. I've had friends ask me, well, if he didn't think Congress would approve, what do you expect him to do, sit on his hands? The answer is simple. The Constitution doesn't give the president the power to disregard Congress. So no, don't go to war if you can't get Congress to approve. And if Republican presidents can't get a Republican Congress to support this war, perhaps that provides even more reason to doubt the wisdom of the conflict. Now, again, I disagree with French on the wisdom of the conflict. What you need is a strategy. Had he made the case for war, he could have prepared the people for potential economic hardship. He would have been forced to precisely define our war aims and means he'd choose to pursue those aims. Had he not alienated key allies through economic warfare, tariffs, and threats to seize Greenland, it could have been easier to assemble in advance an allied force to protect the Straits of Hormuz. Instead, Trump launched a major war on his own initiative while announcing competing and potentially contradicting war aims. The Islamic regime, by contrast, has a single, simple theory of victory: survive. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, he goes on and on and on. I'm just going to say, I basically agree. I think this was still salvageable, and this could still be won, and it needs to be won, and I think it can be won. I think it ultimately will be won, but at a cost to the global economy, at a cost to the United States, at a cost that is absurd and ridiculous, and a consequence of the fact that Trump is Trump. He's reckless. He's not very smart. He doesn't think things through. He is not strategic. I mean, what needs to be done now is, a single-minded focus on the Straits of Hormuz, complete focus on getting our allies to help with opening up the Straits of Hormuz. That involves minesweepers from various countries. It involves bringing in other countries' navies. It involves what is happening, which is bringing in Marines. But think about it. It's going to take the Marines from California 3 weeks to get there. The first batch of Marines is going to be there next week. But there are 3 groups of Marines that are being sent to the Middle East. The rest won't get there until about mid-April. Shouldn't they have been positioned there in advance? Do you remember all the positioning of aircraft batteries and anti-missile batteries and all of that was being done in the weeks before this war was launched? Why weren't the Marines sent there as well at the same time? If the Straits of Hormuz was strategically planned for. I know all of you, all the Trump lovers, all the people who wanted to defend Trump. No, of course they thought about it. What do you think? They'd go to war without thinking about this? Only you, Yaron, thought about this? Not only me. I'm sure a number of strategists out there thought about this. But it turns out, no, the Trump administration jumped into this without planning, without taking into account the closing of the Straits of Hormuz and the economic consequences of it all, and without placing the necessary troops, the necessary military assets to deal with it. Now, again, it can still be dealt with. And the way to deal with it is... one second, let me just clean up the chat a little bit. All right. That's a beginning. We'll see what else, right? Well, Trump's an idiot. Trump's lack of strategy, and the fact that he's not very smart, as I said, caused him to think this would be a quick war. The Israelis didn't think this would be a quick war. They planned for this to be many weeks-long wars. They had no illusion that killing Khamenei would bring a quick end to this, and I'm pretty sure the Israelis probably prepared the Trump administration for the fact that this would be lengthy. Trump wasn't listening to anybody. Trump not listening to anybody. Trump marching ahead, ignoring the warnings. Now, if you look at the oil market and if you look at the stock market, again, everybody is still pretty optimistic about the ability of solving this issue. Although, as we speak, crude oil is going up again, back up to 98.5. Gold continues to plummet. It's down to 4,500. Silver is now below 70. So much for the gold and silver, can only reach the stratospheres and can never go down. The dollar keeps strengthening as 10-year yields up to 4.4. And the market's down. NASDAQ is down 2% today. So the market continues to go down. Everybody is seesawing between, all right, the U.S. military will pull out that miracle, or this is going to be an unmitigated disaster. It's all about the Straits of Hormuz at this point. Now, there is another possibility, right? There is another possibility. We just think Israel is working hard to bring to reality, and that is that the regime does fall. There's indication that IRGC personnel are crossing the border into Afghanistan to escape the slaughter that is happening to IRGC troops all over Iran, even in its most eastern borders. You can see them. There's video of them crossing the border from Iran into Afghanistan. There is, some evidence that there is fracturing in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. And Israel continues, unabated, to kill Islamic Revolutionary Guard leaders. Just overnight, it killed 4. Ali Muhammad Nani, the IRGC spokesman. They killed the Basij intelligence chief. They killed an aerospace forces commander and a special forces commander. Earlier today, there was assassination attempts in Tehran. Not clear who they were going after, but clearly bombs were being threaded through windows of apartments. Somebody was being targeted. Israel will continue to do that. They will also continue to kill Basij. These are the people who oppress the Iranian people. Basij militiamen, soldiers all over Tehran and all over Iran, thus providing impetus for the Iranians to rise up. There's also reason to believe, I have no intelligence about this, I just knowing how Israel operates, there's reason to believe there are special operations forces, maybe both Israeli and American, certainly Israeli on the ground in Iran, assisting opposition, maybe arming them, maybe just providing encouragement, taking out strategic assets. So, the war continues from the perspective of demolishing Iran's capability to wage war. This is a massive success. In terms of weakening the Iranian regime, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, this is a massive success. But all you have to do is ignore one strategic and important point, Straits of Hormuz in this case, in a war, and you might have massive successes somewhere and still fail to achieve your goals and provide your enemy with, I wouldn't call it victory, but at least survival. And remember, if we back off on the Straits of Hormuz, as David French says, they will forever know that they can close those straits whenever they want, and the U.S. can do nothing to them. It is now a must, non-optional, that the United States, with allies, hopefully, destroy Iran's capability to close the Hormuz Straits. And that might very well require troops on the ground. And indeed, that's why I think the Marines are heading there, probably 8,000 Marines total, no, it looks like 12,000 Marines total maybe, will be somewhere in the region. They'll be with amphibious, so they'll be able to land on the beaches, if you will, to take Krog Island, maybe to take other islands, maybe to dismantle from land whatever the Iranians' facilities have. Supposedly, the United States bombed command and control centers of the Iranian forces that are blocking the Straits of Hormuz. These are very deep. They are bunkers, and it might be possible that they did not actually, destroy them completely. It does look like they will start to use the bunker busting bombs, the big bombs, and indeed the United Kingdom has just given Trump the green light to use British bases where you've got the B-2s, B-1s, B-52s stationed. Use British bases to strike targets in the Straits of Hormuz. So what this suggests to me is that the United States is going to start using bigger bombs and more intense bombing of the islands and the caves and the bunkers all along the coast and on the islands that are closing the Hormuz Straits. Right now, ships are exiting the Hormuz Straits if they're approved by the Iranians, and they're doing that by reaching a certain island, getting certified, if you will, and continuing it on. How Iran is being allowed to operate any kind of scheme from any of those islands, from anything on the Hormuz Straits, is bizarre to me. Every facility the Iranians have on the shore and on these islands should be destroyed, and they should be made to pay the full price. I mean, the fact that Trump is taking off that he won't attack economic assets in Iran is, again, such a sign of weakness. Make them pay. Make them pay. Instead, Trump is lashing out at the Europeans, calling them cowards. They won't come to help him. This should have been an ask before the war started. This should have been prepared for before the war started. All right, let's see. Iran is still believed to have vast stockpiles of mines, cruise missiles on trucks, and hundreds of undamaged boats in hidden facilities with deep dug tunnels along the coast and on islands. This is exactly what you need, B-52s, B-1s, to take them out. I don't know that you need to use B-2s because you don't need stealth at this point, but you need the big bunker-busting bombs to take them out and to destroy them completely. There are a lot of articles out there about, are we winning, are we losing? Here's one again. This one is written by who's more optimistic by this is what's his name? A guy named Mark Montgomery. He says there are two actions that would subvert the victory. The first is President Trump prematurely calls off the operation before the necessary targets have been hit. He did this last summer, forcing an early end to Israel's military campaign against Iran. Another week of operations by the Israelis might have prevented Tehran from responding as forcefully as it did in the first days of this conflict. They would have taken out more of those ballistic missiles. The second failure would be if the United States allows Iran to maintain control of the Straits of Hormuz. Should the regime survive the war with the power to close Hormuz at will, disrupting the transit of fossil fuels and other crucial commodities, any declaration of victory by the United States will ring hollow. A tense struggle is underway between what's required for success and the enormous financial stress the war puts on energy and stock markets. Victory is possible, but only if the United States endures the financial strain until it can gain control over the straits and reopen flow of trade. Opening the straits won't be easy. Iran can threaten shipping with aerial drones, primarily Shahad drones loaded with explosives, and unmanned fast attack boats. It also has cruise missiles, and they're especially dangerous because the Straits is just 21 miles wide, and its narrowest point, which means American warships have 30 to 40 seconds to employ defensive measures. Iran's missiles, drones, and unmanned attack boats have already been severely degraded by airstrikes and will continue to be hit hard. So the greatest obstacle to reopening the Straits are now Iranian mines, some about the size of a washing machine, lying silently at the sea floor. American attacks have put 16 of Iran's mine-laying vessels out of commission, but Iran probably maintains hundreds, perhaps thousands of mines. Let's see. Today, Mr. Trump is reportedly, these mines, just the mines. Some of the mines sit at the sea floor or are tethered to it. Still others can be programmed to count ships, so an American minesweeper could run the route and another ship could follow before the mine would detonate and bring down the third ship. Mr. Trump is reportedly desperate to start having Navy ships escort tankers through the Straits. The lessons of Operation Earnest Will, this is the one from the 1980s, is to avoid trying to pass the Straits prematurely before American force can remove as much of the threat as possible. If there are mines in the water, it is essential to complete the painstaking, dangerous, and slow work of demining. The president should remember that China is watching. If pressure in the oil markets is enough to break America's resolve and lead Mr. Trump to pull out of the war, Chinese leaders are that much more likely to conclude that our commitments to defending Taiwan are nothing but bluster. If the United States can hold firm in the next few weeks, it can fully degrade Iran's war-making apparatus. This could usher in a multi-year interval of calm of the kind that neither sanctions nor diplomacy has been able to produce in over 4 decades. In that window, a better regional order could emerge. The president has reached the decisive point. He cannot both end the war immediately and claim victory. It is one or the other. I think that's absolutely right. Victor Davis Hanson is writing about the war. He's basically very positive about the war, and thinks that that if Trump sees it through, again, he's emphasizing if Trump sees it through, and Victor Davis Hanson believes he will, the regime falls. Not in years, but falls pretty soon. I agree with Victor Davis Hanson. On military matters, Hanson is really good. Cultural stuff, not as much. All right. That is... what are we doing here? It's $1,000 a show, not $500 a show. $1,000 a show. Yeah, Victor Davis Hanson, Ian says Victor Davis Hanson was so positive in the Iraq War, and he was justifiably positive about the Iraq War. From a military perspective, it was a massive success. It failed in the nation-building component. It failed in the what do you call it? Suppression of the terrorism that came after. But in terms of a military operation, a huge success. But yes, Victor Davis Hanson is often too favorable to these situations. All right. Let's talk about what is going on the ground. So again, it's all about the Hormuz Straits. I am vindicated. There's no question that the Trump administration had no strategy for them. So what I've told you all these weeks, what I told you before the war, it's basically all true. A strategy seems to have developed, but only after the war started, maybe a week into it, did they start thinking about a strategy. Only 2 weeks into it did they start executing on the strategy when they should have been executed on it day one. It might have been that other than the ballistic missiles, the number one strategic target for the U.S. should have been the mine-laying equipment, the mining boats of the Iranian Navy. But that was not the calculus. That was not the priority, sadly. All right. Let's see. I don't think the war can be lost on non-military grounds. I think it's all about the military. A victory, a true military victory over Iran. That is such a huge shift. I don't think there's much that you could do to ruin that or to lose that if you really do win, if you really get regime change, no matter what regime comes about. Regime change away from an Islamic republic, good flows from that. Whether Trump tries to mess around and screw up afterwards, he can't ruin that. I don't think. I mean, he might be able to. He's very creative about these things. All right, let's go through a little bit of what's actually happening on the ground. Israel, in the meantime, has been widening its strike set inside Iran. It's hitting regime infrastructure in Tehran and other cities. And it strikes to cities like Pashin, Arak, Kermen, Isfahan, Bandar el-Lenge. And as I discussed yesterday, the northern maritime infrastructure, and destroyed basically the Iranian fleet on the Caspian Sea, which makes it very difficult for them to be importing weapon systems from the Russians over that route. So they're probably getting it by land from Turkmenistan. Iran continues to send missiles, particularly to Israel. The strategy right now seems to be by the Iranians to send small numbers of missiles, but lots of times, every couple of hours, to maybe to try to demoralize the Israelis, to try to force them, to run to the air raid shelters all night. I know a lot of Israelis, particularly Israelis who don't have safe rooms in their apartments and have to go outside to an air raid shelter, actually sleeping in their clothes because they're woken up so many times during the night in order to do it. So this is not causing much damage, indeed very little damage. They hit something in the port of Haifa, but I think a number of containers caught fire. Again, yesterday they hit the refinery, but they didn't hit the refinery itself. They hit an electrical substation. That will be fixed. I mean, nothing dramatic, nothing that is going to damage Israel. They haven't killed many people. They killed a number of people in the West Bank. They managed a bomb managed to kill a fragment of the bomb managed to kill 4 Palestinians at a hairdresser's place. There were also. It seems that the Iranians are targeting the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem because Jerusalem has had a lot of sirens. One of the missile fragments, or one of the missiles, one of the missiles landed in the Jewish quarter of the old city, not far from Al-Aqsa Mosque, causing some damage, but nothing serious and nobody hurt. But if they hit, I think maybe people are speculating online that Iran might be trying to hit the Al-Aqsa Mosque with the idea that if they do, they'll blame it on Israel and get a pan-Islamic uprising because Israel destroyed this important big mosque in Jerusalem. So who knows what they're thinking, but it seems desperate to me if that's what they're trying to do. Obviously, they can't cause any damage to Israeli significant economic assets or any significant or not military assets at all. Let's see. Israel, as we said, has hit a number of IRGC commanders at various levels. They continue to try to assassinate as many people as possible. Indeed, it seems like in the last few days, they've intensified the level of assassination attempts and to take out these people. Last night, there were 8 waves of attack against Israel with missiles. Again, small numbers. Most of them don't make it, but it gets people into the bunkers. It gets people into the safe rooms it is more harassment than anything else. Right? The thing is, you have to remember with the Iranian bombs, ballistic missiles, is they're not particularly smart. Whereas Israel, everything is pinpoint. They're threading missiles through windows. The Iranian ballistic missiles are not accurate at all. Their drones are more accurate, but the drones can't reach Israel. It's such a long distance that they get shot down on the way easily. The only thing they can do is lob these dumb ballistic missiles that are basically targeting residential areas at Israel with the hope to harass the Israeli population into begging their government to stop, which is not going to happen. The Israelis are ready and committed. I don't know if you saw this video online of the Tel Aviv beach. Israelis are going to the beach. There are a bunch of people kite surfing on the Israeli beach. It's not exactly weather to swim, but they are kite surfing. They must have. They're wearing wetsuits. They're hanging out at the beach. If you look at the pictures of the coffee shops and Tel Aviv streets, they are packed. Israelis are living life. Israel is very accustomed to this, sadly. They know how to deal with it. They know that this war has to be finished. The Israeli public does not want to settle with this war. They want it to be finished, however long it takes. And they're willing to take the blows in the meantime. And the blows are, again, mainly inconvenience, lack of sleep, and things like that, and some property damage. And, once in a while, tragically, somebody dies from this. But again, this is dumb stuff. In the meantime, Israel is moving further north in the south of Lebanon. Tanks are rolling into Lebanon. They are trying to dismantle Hamas from the ground. Supposedly, they've killed over 500 Hamas fighters. So far, Israel is not taking any casualties. Let's hope that continues. They continue to bomb Hezbollah bases and headquarters and facilities all over Lebanon, while they're also dealing with Iran. And they even bombed some Syrian bases yesterday this morning, because the Syrians were threatening the Druze minority that Israel has committed to protecting in southern Syria. So Israel is fighting right now on 2, maybe 3 fronts, and so far handling it all pretty easily with very minimal damage to itself or casualties. Again, the Gulf states not so much. The Gulf states are panicking. There's real damage, particularly to Qatar. Couldn't happen to nicer people. I can't say I'm upset that Qatar has suffered damage. I wish the damage was more, and the world found a way to not rely on Qatari LNG. I mean, that is a one evil regime that has a lot of blood on their hands. They are the number 2 funders of terrorism in the world over the last 10 years, 15 years after Iran, and so I don't feel particularly sorry for them. All right, what else? Just in terms of the oil market, there's some positive signs here. Argentina has become a significant and growing exporter of oil and natural gas. Just not that long ago, as of 2023, Argentina was a net importer of oil and natural gas. It is now a significant exporter. Partially, this is Milei basically opening up the oil fields and the gas fields for foreign investors feeling comfortable enough to do it. Milei securing property rights for those investors. Argentina is selling oil. By the way, they're using dollars. Milei is a pretty smart economist. If the dollar was about to collapse and the dollar was not going to be a global currency, I don't think Milei would be using dollars, but they are. Anyway, this year they're expected to export $12 billion worth of oil and natural gas. So there is more sources, and more sources will come online. That is, the market will adjust, and the market will find alternatives. Here's another one. Egypt is a big player in Egypt and Israel both have significant natural gas. Israel cannot do LNG, but Egypt can. Israel can pipe natural gas from its gas fields to Egypt. So here's a formula. If Israel can continue supplying gas from the Levantine field, this is the field in the Mediterranean, to Egypt without disruption, Egypt can then release around 24 LNG tankers to the global market, mainly to Asia. Egypt will profit from the price increase, and Asia will get the LNG it needs for chip production and everything else. So there are other sources of natural gas out there and oil out there that suddenly become economic, some suddenly become profitable, and what you're going to see is a realignment of the oil industry and the natural gas industry as markets adapt. Now, there will be pain. Markets can't adapt instantaneously. Oil wells cannot be tapped immediately. LNG terminals cannot be built. But if you remember when Russia attacked Ukraine, invaded Ukraine, everybody was convinced that the following year Europe was going to have no natural gas, no energy, that it was going to just be destroyed. And the reality is that markets adapted. While not getting gas from Russia, Europe adapted and got gas from Qatar and the United States. There are solutions. There are solutions. The oil is onshore in Argentina. It's not offshore. Brazilian oil is offshore. But Argentinian oil, at least as far as I can tell, yes, they've got a whole basin there that is onshore. All right. Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about, looking at kind of the missile attacks on Jerusalem and where they are targeting. It's all around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's not far from the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So they're trying to hit they're trying to do something. You can see there's video of one of the missiles hitting inside the old wall, inside the old wall of Jerusalem. I'm also seeing stories that the United States is increasing the number of special forces in Baghdad, and that there's a threat supposedly in Baghdad that the Iraq-backed forces will try to bring about a coup and overthrow the Iraqi government, and that the United States is bringing in special forces into Iraq in order to try to prevent that and stop that. The United States is also selling more weapon systems to the Gulf states. The U.S. State Department released a number of congressional notifications for foreign military sales to Gulf nations, totaling about $16.5 billion. This includes Jordan, UAE, and Kuwait. The weapons to UAE include advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, F-16 munitions and upgrades, long-range discrimination radar with terminal high-altitude area defense integration, that's the THAAD, fixed-site, low-slow, small unmanned aircraft integrated defeat systems. This is to anti-drones, and other stuff. Kuwait, it includes low-tier air and missile defense sensor radars, and to Jordan includes aircraft repairs and ordnance support. So the United States is selling more weapon systems into the Gulf states. And by the way, I should have said this earlier. A big, kind of a short-term winner of what's going on right now is U.S. natural gas industry, which is benefiting from significantly higher prices. LNG production in the United States is on steroids. It's they're pumping out LNG and sending it all over the world. They're sending it at much higher prices. It's very, very profitable right now to be in the LNG business. and the Americans are trying to fill in as much of the gap as possible. U.S. exported more than 15 billion cubic feet of LNG a day in 2025, and that was up from 10.2 billion in 2022. So the United States has increased its capacity to ship LNG dramatically, and my guess is they're frantically trying to find ways to increase that capacity right now so they can take advantage of these higher prices. Again, markets adapt. On the horror side of all of this, while this is all going on, the Iranians have started systematically executing the civilians from the demonstrations in January. They are killing their own citizens, many of whom are teenagers. They just publicly hung a teenage athlete, 19-year-old, who was protesting in January. I'll note that while they're hanging these civilians and hanging these heroes, really, Amnesty International is silent. The United Nations is silent. The Human Rights Council is silent. The Red Cross is silent. SENC, silent. Anna Kasparian, silent. Dave Smith, silent. Mendy, silent. Tucker Carlson, silent. Candace, silent. She's such a good Christian, you wouldn't want her to get involved. Greta, of course, is silent. And you could go on and on and on of all the bleeding heart leftists, and include Tucker and Candace in that, all the bleeding heart leftists who will jump at, to defend, to claim there was genocide in Gaza or whatever cause they are eager to support. But when the Iranians are killing their own citizens, say absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. All right. Let's see. We got 10 minutes before our first hour ends. We've got a $250 goal for each hour. And you can help us reach that goal pretty easily with a sticker or with a question. Questions are great because then I answer what you want. So I talk about the things you want me to talk about. I know a lot of you are asking questions in the chat. Don't. I'm going to ignore it. If you're interested in my answer to your questions, put it in the super chat. You can do it $2 all the way up to $500. $500 is the limit. We are short $54 to get to our first 250. So let's see if we can get $54 worth of questions or stickers in the next 10 minutes so that we can make our goal, and then we'll start working on the second hour goal. In the meantime, we've got Jonathan Honing who did a sticker, and Alan who did a sticker, and we've got Mike who did a sticker. So thank you guys. Thank you all for the stickers. We're still looking now for $54 to make our goal. 164 people watching. Just a couple of dollars. Value for value. You're listening because you value what I have to say, or you're a masochist. If you're a masochist, don't contribute. That's fine. But if you value what I say, please consider value for value. I guess if you value your masochism, then you should pay for it too, right? So in any way, you should do it. Put your money behind your questions, and I will answer every single one of them. I do. I'll stay here for as long as it takes. What we do. A lot of shows have super chats, but they don't answer every question, right? They answer a few, and then they just take the money. I answer every single question, even if it's $1. I answer every single question. I'll stay here for 3 hours if that's what's necessary to answer every single one of them. But that means you need to ask questions, and you can ask on anything, and they can be as insulting as you want them to be. Get more value that way. All right, a few words on Ukraine. I think I told you I met the former Minister of the Economy of Ukraine when I was in Honduras. He's now the president of a university in Kiev, and really fascinating guy, really interesting guy. We talked a little bit about Ukraine, but really, if you really think about it, what's going on in Ukraine is truly stunning. It really is truly stunning. Ukraine was invaded in February 2022 by what was considered the second most powerful military in the world after the United States. A military much larger, dramatically larger than Ukraine. A military with supposedly some of the most sophisticated weapon systems in the world. A military with, not only lots of soldiers, but lots of tanks and special forces and air force and ballistic missiles, and of course nukes standing behind all of it. And in much of Ukraine, the Ukrainians, which had a very small military, which was doubted, did have some Western weapon systems, but really what they mostly had was a real commitment to fight, beat them back in most of the fronts, everywhere except in the south and Donbass. And even in the south, much of that was taken back from the Russians. Indeed, Russia today occupies, less than what it occupied, much less than what it occupied at the peak of that war, at the peak from their perspective, and has taken a beating in terms of casualties. Somewhere between 1.3 and 1.4 million Russians have even been killed or injured during that war. But what is, this didn't surprise me, partially because I never thought Russia was the second most powerful military in the world, or even the third most powerful military in the world. Generally, I think Russia is has a weak and very pathetic military. It has nukes. That's the only thing that makes it a superpower. But its military is weak. Its equipment is shoddy. Its tanks are pathetic. Its entire military equipment and procurement system is just a disaster. As somebody who firsthand fought against that equipment in the past and seen it, being eviscerated in every conflict in the world, I wasn't surprised by the ability of the Ukrainians, even with a little bit of Western technology, to beat them back. And they have beaten them back. But what is truly amazing about Ukraine is the fact that not only did they beat back not only were they able to beat back the Russians, but they have developed over the last, what is it now? It is 4 years. They have developed one of the most advanced, sophisticated, entrepreneurial, and reactive, that is, defense industries in the world. They are now at the point where they are the most advanced nation in the world in terms of building drones and defense systems against drones, maybe with the exception of Israel's laser systems, which might be cheaper and better than what the Ukrainians have. But other than the Israelis, they are deploying, they are capable of deploying systems, of changing them on the fly. I mean, the heroism, the ingenuity, the entrepreneurship, the creativity, the lack of a rigid command structure where people can go directly into the field, test out technology, make changes, and immediately hand it to units that are using it to fight without having to get approvals from general and this general and that general and so on, is truly astounding. This is a military that has learned on the fly how to become innovative, creative, and create a culture that can defeat the mighty, or at least mighty in terms of sheer numbers, the Russian army. And indeed, in the last couple of months, the Ukrainians have started to make, to make progress on the ground as well, actually to take territory back from the Russians, slowly, small, but they're doing it. Now, when the Gulf states need technologies to deal with drones that Iran is sending to them, and remember, the Gulf states are very close to Iran, so the drones get there very fast, not like Israel where they get there very slow and can easily be shot down on the way. In the Gulf states, it's difficult because they get there pretty fast. The United States is not, is shocking, right? The United States' best technology to defeat the drones are Patriot missiles. Patriot missiles are like $3 million each. And one of the things that is going on is these Gulf states are shooting like 8 Patriot missiles at one drone or one ballistic missile. Drone that costs maybe $35,000 is being shot down by 8 $3 million. It's completely mind-boggling, and it's no wonder they're running out of Patriot missiles because they're just shooting them with no thought. The Ukrainians, what the Gulf states has asked is the Ukrainians to come and help them defend against drones. And the Ukrainians are just shocked at what they're finding. A Ukrainian officer says, I don't understand what they were doing. What they weren't, were they watching what we did at war over 4 years? Right. So it's you've got an American military and these Gulf state militaries that are just not equipped to deal with drones. And look, the Chinese are watching. Chinese can build more drones than anybody right now. This is, again, the Ukrainian military. This is, what was it? Yeah. Not only were they launching eight Patriot missiles for one target, they often used the ship-based SM-6 missiles worth about $6 million to shoot down a Shahad worth $70,000. Why aren't the American ships, why don't they have the laser systems on board? Why don't they have the Ukrainian-developed anti-drone drones? He says the U.S. and the allies often literally shine their radars like beacons without proper camouflage. Ukrainians work differently. Mobile radars, constantly changing positions. For example, just 3 cheap Shahad drones destroyed an FPS 132, which is an early warning radar, worth about $1 billion. Another air defense radar, worth about $300 million, was standing in one place for months, and the Russians gave them targeting, and was destroyed easily by drones. Ukrainians have been fighting this for 4 years. You'd think we would have learned. Trump has not asked for the Ukrainian help with dealing with the drones, not asked for Ukrainian technology, although Anduril, which is the United States drone maker, U.S. drone maker, is in Ukraine testing their drones, learning from the Ukrainian drone industry, working together with them. So the knowledge exists in the United States. It's just not being applied in this war, and it's not being applied by the U.S. military. So the Ukrainians are in the Gulf, working with the Gulf states, not because the United States asked them to come, but because the Gulf countries asked them to come. It's pretty pathetic the way the Trump administration has dealt with Ukraine, treated the Ukrainians, and ignored the Ukrainians when they could be a real asset in this war. Ukraine has intercepted thousands of Shahad 136 and Shahad 238 drones since 2022. It's developed detection protocols, jamming techniques, acoustic tracking, small arms interception methods, and integrated air defense coordination that no training manual is going to teach you. And nobody in the U.S. military has access to. The Gulf states purchased Patriot batteries, THAAD radars, and anti-drone systems that are super expensive and not very efficient, not very effective in terms of downing these drones, again, that the Ukrainians have figured out completely. So, Israel supports Ukraine helping the Gulf states because that's another shield before the drones ever get to Israel. But And I'm sure the Israelis on the ground with the Gulf states as well. And I'm sure that Israel and Ukraine are cooperating, in the background in silence over all these things. But there are 201 experts from Ukraine in the Gulf states right now trying to fix, again, a massive strategic error by the Trump administration and the U.S. military, ignoring Ukraine's abilities and ignoring the lesson learned from the war in Ukraine and the war with Russia. All right. Islam. This is really about Australia. So I don't know if you saw the story, but I think it was earlier today. Australian Prime Minister Albanese, who is, as you know, a leftist, very, very appeasing of the Islamic community, very, very anti-Israel, very friendly towards the Islamic community in Australia. Anyway, Albanese went to a Sydney mosque for Eid al-Akbar prayers. This is the end of the fasting month, right? So he went for prayers for the end of the Ramadan. And he went there because he wanted to stand up against what people call Islamophobia. Yeah, Islamophobia, that irrational fear of Islam. I think it's a pretty rational fear in my view. But anyway, to stand against Islamophobia. He goes into this mosque and he sits down, and the people at the mosque start yelling at him, threatening him, screaming Allah Akbar at him. God is great. And he sits there terrified, not knowing what to do. He doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to stay. There's mayhem in the audience. I guess a security detail is really, really worried. The video shows them. This is not pleasant. People are yelling at him. He's obviously too pro-Israel for them, right? And he's being harassed. Soon he gets up and leaves, right? Because he can't stay, and he's disrupting the prayers. So he leaves the mosque, right? He's heckled. As he's leaving the mosque, he's called a dirty dog and a pig. I mean, this is a guy who wants to show solidarity with the Muslim community. And he almost gets lynched. Now, this is what happens when you appease. This is what happens when you stick your head in the sand. This is what happens when you ignore the real threat to human life, the real threat to our way of life, the real threat to our systems of government of Islamists. If you appease them, they will spit all over you. I mean, it's worse in Europe, or just as bad in Europe, but it's bad in Australia. This was the headline of the newspaper this morning. Australia's PM called a putrid dog and chased out of mosque. Morning of prayer turned into a high-speed exit for Anthony Albanese as his attempt to garner the multicultural vote was met with boos. I mean, there's a photo of him sitting there, and you should see his expression. The guy is so frigging scared. He is convinced he's going to be lynched. I'm happy he's scared because he deserved it. He is a real piece of work, a real bad guy. Oh, we've got a Saf who's here to defend Islam. How cool is that? God. All right. This one is on the more of the Trump is nuts entertainment section. I don't know if you've heard about this, but, Trump handpicked an arts commission. And the purpose of the art commission was to approve a design, to choose a design for gold coins that the U.S. government would issue. Right? And they have, guess what design they've approved? The handpicked art commission voted on Thursday to approve a commemorative 24-karat gold coin bearing Mr. Trump's image. Mr. Trump's image on the coin. So Trump leaning on the desk, having one of those stern looks. There's a photo of it. You can find it in newspapers on the web. We now have a Trump coin, gold coin. The government is going to issue it with Trump's image on it. Remember that the founding fathers were fiercely against government officials appearing like kings on government-issued coinage. I mean, it's only much later that a president started appearing on our currency, on our banknotes. But the founders objected to that. They were not happy with it. Indeed, when America was founded, the government didn't issue banknotes. It only coined coins. Anyway, this is what you get. This is Trump's, narcissism manifest. Trump coin, enjoy. Here's one for the horror file. I mean, the real horror file. Right? A woman in Georgia has been charged with murder after taking abortion pills, going to the hospital with severe pain, and in the hospital, it was discovered that the fetus was not, in the first 6 weeks, but maybe as late as 22 to 24-week-old fetus. This is in Georgia. Georgia has a law that bans all abortions after 6 weeks, and considers it murder to actually abort a fetus after 6 weeks. This is, it's, after Roe versus Wade has been repealed, there's really been effort in red states to criminalize abortion. Criminalize abortion, turn women and doctors who might facilitate their abortions with murder. I wonder if the people supplying the pills might be roped into this as well. The woman is being held in jail in Camden County, Georgia, and she's been appointed a public defender. This happened, I guess, in late December. It's coming. But she was arrested. But she was arrested recently once they discovered that. This is what happened. In addition to murder, police also charged Moore with possession of a Schedule II controlled substance. She, in addition to the abortion pill, she also took some Oxycontin, I guess because of the pain, and possession of dangerous drugs. Anyway, this is how red states are really trying to make abortion everywhere basically a crime. Now, Americans in polls don't support criminally charging women who have had abortion. There is a very small percentage of people in America who thinks that they should actually be charged, less than 20%. But that is, in the state of Georgia, the government is doing it in spite of that. Wes just came in with a $100 sticker. Thank you, Wes. That is great. That puts us kind of back on track in terms of reaching our goal. We do still have to make the 500 goal because we're in our second hour. So still looking for about $170 to make that goal. So please consider that. given the number of questions, we probably won't go into the third hour, but we're definitely going to go well into the second hour. So thank you, Wes. Also thank you, let's see, Darlene and Lawson and Nature Observer and Fred Harper and Roland, all of you for your stickers. Really appreciate that. But again, especially for Wes, who did $100. With a few $100 stickers, we could get our goals very, very, very quickly. 2 of them, indeed, would cover it. But, 50s, 20s, and questions. You can ask questions, and I'll answer them. Answer all of them, unlike many out there who do not. All right, let's see. That is abortion. All right, this is an interesting story that actually Jeffrey Miller, who is a chef, Jeffrey Miller is a Michelin-starred chef in New York, asked about 2 days ago, but just the show had ended by the time he asked it. Let me read you Jeffrey Miller's question. Have you been following the news regarding Noma and Renee, I can't pronounce this guy's name, Redzepi? He said, not in favor of mistreating employees, but I'm wary of public takedowns. Yeah. All right. So for those of you who do not know, Noma has been considered the world's #1 restaurant for at least the last decade. It was in Copenhagen. It was in Copenhagen. The restaurant's in Copenhagen. It closed at the end of last year, but it opened up like a pop-up in LA. It's done that in the past. They've opened up pop-ups in a variety of places around the world. Again, he is considered, Redzepi is considered one of the great innovators in food, in restaurant food. Noma is considered, again, in the top 50 restaurants, which is something that is published regularly. He often is taking the place of #1. Right now, if you get to #1, you can never get into #1 again. You're bumped into a all-star category, and you're not ranked anymore. He is in that category. The restaurant Noma also had 2 Michelin stars and then received 3 Michelin stars. So it's considered, if not the best restaurant in the world, one of the best restaurants in the world. However, he has a temper. And if you've ever seen shows about great chefs and great restaurants and what happens in the kitchens of great chefs and great restaurants, it gets really, really intense in there. And it gets loud and intense, and it's hot, so you're dealing with flames, so it can be dangerous. And many of these world-class chefs have tempers. And they yell a lot. And they get super angry. Now, Redzepi has been accused now by several employees over the years, but particularly recently, of abusing them. Mostly abusing them verbally. Verbal abuse. But in one case, at least, that's been filed, he has been accused of literally, punching or hitting somebody, using physical force. It's also true that in 2022, before 2022, Noma used interns in the kitchen. That is, a significant part of their staff was unpaid. People were willing to go unpaid to work in his kitchen, because why would they do that? Why would they do such a ridiculous, stupid thing is to go work in a kitchen without getting any pay? Because if you worked in that kitchen for months, years, you could basically write your own ticket after that. People would pay you a lot of money to come and work in their kitchens or come and open your own restaurant. The reputation of having worked at Noma would guarantee you a clientele almost instantly. And indeed, that's true of all the top restaurants in the world. People go work there And then they go on to have successful careers using the fact that they worked in these other kitchens on their resume. It's what provides investors with confidence and what gets them hired maybe in another top restaurant. Again, Redzepi might be an asshole, but he was a great teacher. And he yelled at people and verbally abused them. Now, look, I'm not big on yelling at people and verbally abusing them. I don't think that's a good strategy generally. But I know a lot of managers who do. And, you know, a lot of brilliant managers. Steve Jobs has been accused of yelling at people, was accused of yelling at people. Never physically force. Physical force is crossing a line. But note that almost all these people were yelled at. And even I think the person who was physically, supposedly, we don't have confirmation, physically abused, all go back. Why do they go back to work? I don't think it's because they're psychologically traumatized into doing it, but I think because they value the experience and the knowledge that they are gaining. For the same reason that people who were yelled at by Steve Jobs went back to work. I have said in the past that I would consider it an honor to be yelled at by Steve Jobs. I think that some people who work as chefs might consider it an honor to be yelled at by, or at least consider it a great opportunity to be yelled at by Redzepi. Now, it can go overboard, it can go over the line, but his success suggests otherwise. Anyway, all this spoke about a month ago, and it's been all over the press. And people are mouthing off, and it's created a huge public storm, and a public takedown of this guy. Nobody's been there. They weren't there. They didn't see what happened. They don't have the details. But at the end of the day, all of this got to Redzepi, and I guess it was one morning last week. He quit. He basically resigned, stepping down from Noma. I don't know if Noma as an entity can continue to exist without him. He was Noma, is Noma, but he quit. He's walking away. He's walking away. Again, one of the most innovative restaurants in the history of restaurants, a restaurant that is being copied by many, is going away because of these allegations. It's been a month now, former employees going online, telling of past abuse that they suffered in the kitchens. It's interesting, though, that all of this is tinged with the political agenda. It's tinged with other motivations, right? A certain resentment of high-end restaurants. I saw a number of people talking about the fact that, what is this Noma thing? It caters to the very rich. Food should be democratic, democratized. We want change. What does change mean? Change means cheaper restaurants that everybody can afford. And we resent the fact that there are kitchens out there, chefs out there that only cater to the wealthy. So a lot of this is tinged with kind of envy, tinged with egalitarianism. There's criticism of the Michelin system, of the fact that Michelin gives stars to restaurants where the chef might be abusive. He says, so this is one of former Noma's interns, right? One of former interns who didn't get paid in 2018 for working there, but who today, I guess, is a chef in Turkey, right? So this is he says, quote, "We should be talking about what Michelin stars really represent, what rich people want to eat. They wanted to eat plastic when El Bulli was number one. El Bulli, famous revolutionary restaurant in Spain. El Bulli was number one, and Cod Sperm when Noma was number one. So you get a sense that there is a lot of glee in watching this amazing, innovative, just amazing chef being ripped down, torn down, brought down into the muck and into the mud. So there, people are, we need to rethink restaurants, right? We need to rethink the culture of restaurants. We can change. This is another former intern. We can change so that food isn't gate-kept and marketed for status. The people that cook and handle the food should be acknowledged. And the toil shouldn't be glamorized on glossy TV shows like Knife's Edge and Chasing Michelin Stars and The Bear and things like that. So that's what they really resent. They resent the success. They resent the achievement. They resent the fact that people with money eat at these restaurants and that only people with money can afford them. They resent the fact that these chefs are hailed as superstars, because they are. They have TV shows. Look, if the guy really did physically abuse somebody, then I hope that the police got involved and he suffers the consequence of that. But if it was just verbal abuse, don't work for him if you can't handle it. Don't work for him if you don't like it. As a former Noma chef in Portugal wrote on Instagram, kitchens were never meant to be easy places. Right? But on the other hand, other people are saying things like, I'm so disappointed that our industry is still talking about this false idol. Why is he false exactly? He's a genius who created, arguably, this is the same guy who just called him a false idol. This is what he writes. He's a genius who created, arguably, the greatest restaurant of our time. But what is his legacy? Isn't his legacy the greatest restaurant of our time? Isn't his legacy that he changed the way restaurants think about food forever? I mean, one of the things that Noma is known for is its emphasis, focus on local ingredients, only using local ingredients. How many restaurants do you know that today advertise local? We only use local ingredients. That's because of Noma. Noma also, I think, once served its customers live ants. Other restaurants are not mimicking that. Although I have eaten at a number of restaurants dead ants. Flavored appropriately, they can be quite delicious and crunchy. So, one of my great culinary regrets, Jeffrey knows this because he tried to remedy this, but one of my great culinary regrets is the fact that I never got to eat at Noma. Never managed to get a reservation. Whenever I was in Copenhagen, either I didn't have time or I couldn't get a reservation, but I never got to eat at Noma. But we were still trying late last year. Couldn't make it happen. Anyway, I would have loved to have eaten at Noma. I'm not rich by rich standards, I think, but I'm willing to spend a lot of money once in a while to eat a once-in-a-lifetime meal. Once-in-a-lifetime meal. Yeah, I know you think that it sounds like modern art or whatever. Until you actually go and experience these restaurants, don't judge them. Until you actually go and experience the aesthetic value, the taste, texture, just the interesting things that they do with food. It's an experience. So I'm a big fan of these kind of restaurants. Big fan. I didn't watch the movie that was called The Menu because it sounded like the whole point of that movie was to knock people like this down. Right? And so I love this food, right? And I love these restaurants. And I searched them out all over the world. And I think it's tragic that a chef is drawn through the mud like this. Again, maybe he's not a nice guy, but recognize the genius and if you don't want to go to work for him, he had this reputation for years. Everybody knew this. You don't have to go to work for somebody like that. There are plenty of restaurants in the world. You don't have to go to the one restaurant known for having a chef who loses his temper. And by the way, many chefs, not all, obviously, but many chefs are like this. So it's an intense, super intense. If you've ever watched any shows about chefs, super intense business. All right, finally, in the category of good news, Tesla. Tesla is finally about to release later this year, its first semi-truck. Some of the innovations around the semi-truck are centered driving position. It's relatively fast charging. It has a 500-mile range, which is pretty amazing given that it's dragging a semi-trailer behind it. Since this is on the topic, Molten Splendor asks, have you tried Alinea in Chicago? It's amazing. It truly is amazing. One of the best restaurant experiences my wife and I have ever had. It is truly spectacular. It's a 3-star Michelin restaurant that's worth the 3 stars. It's again, one of the top, 5 meals we've ever had. The food justified, the food and the experience, but mainly the food justified the hype in Alinea in Chicago. So if you guys are ever in Chicago, Alinea is truly astounding. I wonder if Jeffrey, I'm pretty sure Jeffrey's been. I'm curious what Jeffrey thinks of Alinea, but I really enjoyed it. All right. Anyway, the semi-truck is getting good reviews from truck drivers who are pretty skeptical about these things. Here's just from the Wall Street Journal article. The first time Dakota Shearer drove a Tesla semi-truck, he took a wrong turn just outside Sparks, Nevada, and got stuck on a bend that was too tight for his 40-foot trailer. Normally, Shearer would reverse out of the jam by getting out of the truck several times to check his position in the road. But Shearer was seated in the center of the cab, eliminating the right side blind spot, and he was flanked by screens showing every object around his tractor-trailer. He says, quote, I backed right out of there, no problem. It's like I'd never done it in the first place. That right there showed me that the technology the Tesla has makes a big difference. So we're looking at the companies expecting to deliver 5,000 and 5,000 between 5,000 and 15,000 semis in 2026, and then ramping up to 50,000 trucks a year, according to their estimates. It's about $100,000 for it's about $100,000. No, it's not. It's not. Doesn't cost $100,000. It's $100,000 less than other battery electric trucks. This could be a huge industry for Tesla. And imagine this is a step towards self-driving trucks, because we already have self-driving trucks in Texas, but Tesla has the self-driving technology. I'm sure it's embedded in the trucks. I'm sure that that's where ultimately it's heading. Tesla's building the driverless cyber cabs, but it'll be interesting to see if they ultimately make these trucks driverless. That is ultimately it will be a game changer. Most accidents on the road that are fatal, that have fatalities, are caused by trucks. So having trucks with advanced technology, having trucks that can drive themselves is going to reduce fatalities dramatically. A huge improvement. Traffic jams, everything else will be much better. Anyway, this truck can drive 500 miles on a single charge, and we will see. You'll start seeing Tesla semi-trucks driving around the highways of the U.S. All right, guys, that is the news for this Friday, March 20th. We'll now turn to Super Chats. You still have an opportunity to ask questions. There's quite a few that I have to answer before I get to yours. So you have lots of time to ask questions. We've also got enough time to reach our goal. We've got half an hour to make Jennifer just came in, so basically 104, is that right? Yeah, $104. $104 to get to our $500 goal. So please consider supporting the show with a sticker or supporting it with a question in the Super Chat. Either way is good. So what did I just do there? No, I just gifted 5 memberships. I think I did by accident, but there you go. Oh, Ian got a gifted a membership, and Stephen and Mike. All right, that's good. Some long-time regular visitors to the Yaron Brook Show just got gifted memberships. That's the way I like it. I can't choose who to gift a membership. It's YouTube decides. I guess it's random. All right, I'll remind you that the Untitled Institute has a conference in Porto, Portugal, that you can get a discount code. The discount code is 26YBS10. And you can find out more information on at aynrand.org/start here. The conference is going to have me, Ankar, and Tal as speakers. And it is going to be in mid-April in the beautiful, beautiful, amazing city of Porto, which has great food. Some of it super expensive, but most of it pretty cheap. And great restaurants. Some of them Michelin starred, but most of them not. Yeah, it's a really good. Right, it's a really, really good, exciting place to have a conference. So join us. If you're in Europe, easy one. But if you're in the United States, come on over. It'll be fun. John, thank you for the sticker. Really appreciate that. Alex Epstein. Alex Epstein is, the world authority on all things energy and power. He is very involved in energy policy in the Trump administration from the outside, but also has a lobbying arm now that lobbies Congress around energy issues, all advocating for free markets, not for favors, not for goodies, not for subsidies, not for preferential treatment, just for more freedom. You can learn more about Alex's work at alexepstein.substack.com, alexepstein.substack.com. Defendersofcapitalism.com. Defendersofcapitalism.com is Michael Williams's project, which I have helped him on, which is a comprehensive program to defend capitalism. It is a comprehensive program that includes lectures on the politics, the economics, the culture, the morality and philosophy of capitalism. It is a unique, one-of-a-kind program. You won't find this anywhere else. Check it out on capitalism, defendersofcapitalism.com, defendersofcapitalism.com. And finally, hendershotwealth.com/YBS, hendershotwealth.com/YBS. They have a product particularly good for anybody who has made a lot of money on stocks and hasn't sold them, therefore has a huge capital gains liability, or you've got a private company but you want to sell it, and you're going to have a huge capital gains liability, tax liability. Well, they are products that can minimize that tax liability and maybe even take it down to zero. Check them out. hendershotwealth.com/YBS. You can also check out the interview I did with Robert Hendershot. By the way, Hendershot is with 2 T's. With Robert Hendershot on my playlist, on my YouTube channel, under sponsors. All right. Let us check out now our super chats. We're down to $94 to make our $500 goal for the second hour. We can go beyond that. That'll be fantastic. So please jump in with support questions, $20 questions particularly, but $2 questions okay as well. Or stickers. Stickers are great. Stickers of any amount are fantastic. Let's start with Liam, who did a $50 question, therefore gets priority. Liam says, what drives the GOP isn't capitalism. All that drives and motivates the Republican Party is hatred of those that aren't them. That hatred is what consumes their policy decisions. The more hate-filled a member of the GOP, the more beloved they are. I think that's a big part of it. I think hate is a big part of it. I think the other part is, which I think ultimately also is generated from hate, is a social agenda. The Republican Party is driven by much more by issues like abortion, trans, even though it's a relatively minor issue if you think about it, trans issues, gay rights, think about how much they obsess about trans sports. I mean, why would they care that much about it? There's so many bigger issues in the world than that. I mean, yeah, I'm against women competing in men's sports, but it's not like top of mind because it's not that important in the big scale of what's going on in the world. Yes, hate of the left, hatred of those they don't agree with, is a lot of what drives the GOP. But they are committed to certain social issues. But you're right, capitalism, freedom, economic freedom, or any other kind of freedom is not top of the agenda. I mean, they used to give lip service to the founders, to the Constitution. That's gone. You won't find J.D. Vance talking about the founders. You won't find even Rubio really talking in a way that is understandable about the Declaration. It's 250 years to the signing of the Declaration. And yet this GOP couldn't care less. Individual rights, who the hell wants that? We want big government. We want government involved in dictating your morality and dictating your economy and dictating your life. So the party that used to, again, at least pay lip service to liberty, lip service to freedom, lip service to capitalism, it doesn't even do that anymore. It really just doesn't care. And much of it doesn't even care about American national self-defense, which it used to be, again, the hawkish party, the party that advocated for self-defense. Much of the Republican Party now supports the leftist agenda of non-intervention. Non-intervention even when it's clearly in American self-interest to intervene. Just look at their attitude towards Ukraine and look at many on the right's attitudes towards this war. All right, now Chavez algorithm says, do most people have trouble registering the truths presented in Objectivism because there is so much junk epistemology floating around in their minds? All that toxic software prevents truth from latching on. Yes, I think that's right, but I wouldn't just say it's bad epistemology. There's a real sense in which they rationalize away whatever objectivism comes their way because of altruism. So it's a combination of bad epistemology, really bad epistemology that kind of, because look, they use good epistemology at work. They use good epistemology when they do science or tech. But when it comes to philosophy, it's out. And to a large extent, It's out not because they can't do good epistemology, not because they can't use that, but because they cannot handle, they cannot comprehend, they cannot deal with, right? They cannot deal with the fact that objectivism is against altruism, that objectivism advocates for rational long-term self-interest, that objectivism advocates for selfishness, properly understood, right? It just can't imagine that. And advocate for capitalism, so they're willing to throw away their rationality in order not to come to certain conclusions, because the conclusions are too upsetting. Arthur, you are either rich or your life sucks. True or false? False. I mean, does that mean that, 250 years ago, nobody had a meaningful life? Everybody's life sucked because nobody was rich in comparison to today. What does even rich mean? Rich relative to other people in your society? Or rich relative to history? Or rich relative to the future? What does it even mean to say you're rich? I used to be poor. My life didn't suck. Money is not the measure by which to determine happiness, flourishing, success. And what do we mean? How rich? I mean, by some measures, everybody in American society today, even the poor, are rich as compared to the past. They all have refrigerators, they have air conditioning, they have automobiles. That's pretty rich. So, yeah, absolutely, unquestionably false. I know a lot of people who are rich whose life sucks. So rich is neither sufficient nor necessary to lead a happy, successful, meaningful life. Some level of economic well-being is necessary. But, and at what stage in your life? When you're young, how can you be rich when you're young? You haven't built anything, you haven't created anything. When you're old, yeah, hopefully by then you've accumulated some money, but how much is enough? How much makes you rich? So, no, completely wrong. Arthur again, do some humans' lives have no value but still have rights? Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of people who produce nothing, do nothing, the people who are leeches in society, people who are takers, not makers. As long as they're not criminals, they still have rights, even though their lives have little, if no value, to no value. But they're human, therefore the rights that you can't steal from them, you can't take from them, you can't beat them up, you can't treat them as if they don't exist, as if they're not human. Arthur says, what does America look like after one generation of laissez-faire capitalism? Wow, I mean, it's hard to imagine, right? Because it looks incredibly successful, and it looks really, really rich, way beyond our imagination rich, happy. People are inspired, happy, energized, excited about their life, about their work, about the other people they engage with. It'll be the most benevolent place on planet Earth, the friendliest place on planet Earth. Innovation through the roof, and everybody relatively wealthy, right? So there'll be huge inequality, and yet even the janitor and the street sweeper would be relatively wealthy. Robots would do a lot of the work we don't want to do. AI will be, helping us create the next great innovations. But, the main effect is just a level of flourishing, happiness, satisfaction, that people will have. Particularly if it's not just imposed on them, the laissez-faire capitalism, but comes as a consequence of their adoption of the objectivist philosophy, which I think is the right sequence. First you adopt the philosophy, then you become laissez-faire capitalist. It will be pretty damn great. Jennifer, is it understandable that even if a food might taste good, mentally it just grosses you out and you don't want to eat it? For example, Rocky Mountain oysters, testicles. Sure. Yeah, the things can gross you out. I mean, you need to think about why it grosses you out and whether it's important or not, whether you want to put the energy into thinking about it or not. This is not pretty big. But, you know, there's certain bugs I wouldn't eat. I'm grossed out by roaches and rats, and there are a few things that gross me out that I wouldn't want to eat. But I'm pretty open to eating pretty much anything else. So I don't. But yeah, I mean, I'll eat ants. I won't eat many other bugs, or some other bugs. But yeah, eyeballs could be cool. I don't know. They'd have to taste good. But I'll try almost anything once. I mean, almost. I'm probably more queasy a little bit now than I was in the past. But yeah, absolutely, it's understandable, right? I mean, and it just is, right? If it grosses you out, you can overcome the grossness if you can still somehow enjoy it. I would eat a spider. I would eat a snake. I would eat spider. I would eat snake. But it's understandable. So it's just a question of whether it's worth trying to overcome it or not. And most things are not that interesting flavor-wise to overcome you being grossed out by it. It's just not worth it. Oh, I love oxtail. Oxtail is like one of the great delicacies of all time. Oh, I love tongue. My mother used to make tongue. It's one of the few things that my mother made that I really liked. Tongue is amazing. I know Americans don't like liver. Right? Liver is so delicious, particularly if it's foie gras. But liver in all its forms, chopped and fried and seared like foie gras, which is duck or goose liver. Yeah, I mean, so there's certain foods. Here's the thing. There's certain foods that you shouldn't let being grossed out by them stop you from eating them because they're so good. Like liver, particularly in the foie gras form, duck or goose liver seared or patéed, it's so good that it is worth any grossing out you might feel about it. So some things you just need to overcome and make the effort, right? Sushi. No, you might not like it. That's fine. But you should at least try it because it's good enough to be worth trying. So, yeah, I mean, there's very little. I mean, there's things that will gross me out, but they're usually not served in restaurants. Most of what's served in restaurants, almost everything served in restaurants, I'm willing to eat. Yeah, liver was, particularly a chopped liver and fried liver was in a frying pan with onions, with fried onions, was pretty much a basic food in our house, as was tongue was a delicacy. Once in a while we had tongue, but tongue is amazing. I mean, you have to cook it right? But somebody here in Puerto Rico, we ordered tongue, and literally it came out like a tongue. Usually it's sliced and you get these thin slices of it. It came out like a steak, like a piece of tongue, which was, it didn't gross me out, but it was not as good. I don't know, it didn't taste as good as the kind of when it's sliced and just done right, cooked right. I'm sorry Jeffrey isn't here to give us advice about all this amazing food. We need Jeffrey's input on how to do this stuff right. All right. Reminder, we really good if we made the 500 today. We are $88 short. So 4 $20 questions would really help get us there, or 4 $20 stickers would get us there. But that would be great. We've still got a way to go this month, but we have to stay on the monthly schedule. I like caviar. I don't love it enough to pay the kind of money that some people are willing to pay for caviar. Caviar is really good, but it's not worth the kind of ridiculous amount. I like oysters. I like all kinds of oysters. I like them raw. I like them cooked. And different oysters taste differently, which is great. John says he had tongue sandwiches for a week. That sounds really good. Stephen says, thanks for the show. Value for value. Appreciate it, Stephen. Thank you. Value for value, guys. 150 watching. How many of you have done a super chat recently? Or a sticker? You could jump in with a sticker or a super chat, and I will answer your question. And Greg says he does not care much for sea urchin. Oh, my God, I love sea urchin. Sea urchin is so good. It's got that smooth texture. It's got that amazing flavor. Love sea urchin. We could go on and on with all this. You guys eaten monkfish liver? Monkfish liver, that's really good. I forget what it's called in Japanese. All right, James, do you think Russia's nuclear weapons even work? Probably some of them. Maybe most of them don't, but some of them do. And who wants to take the risk that just in case 1 or 2 of them do work? Some of them probably do work. Yeah, lobster's amazing. I mean, there's tons of good food. Yeah, monkfish liver is really good. John, if Iran lays mines in Hormuz, how can their own oil go to China? If Iranians keep a certain corridor free of the mines for their own ships, could other vessels use the same channel? Say more about mines. Well, I mean, the number of things that happen, right? So the mines, some of the mine technology is they're placed at the bottom of the sea, and they release them through remote control. So they could release them only when foreign ships were there. I don't know how good those are. I don't know how accurate those mines are. I guess you're right. If there's a clear channel where there are no mines, then you could travel through that channel. If you only use one channel, though, it becomes easier then for them to attack you with drones and other things because they know the exact location. It's easy to target. Moving around, changing schedules, changing routes is probably better. Look, I'm not a mine expert, but you're right that if they just lay mines like floating on the water, the Iranian ships would have a problem as well. But they probably have more advanced technologies than that. Whether they work or not, I don't know. How good they are, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. And I think the best deal is to get minesweepers in there as quickly as possible. Other countries have minesweepers. The United States just decommissioned old minesweepers. They've got some new ones. Ideally, you have robotic minesweepers. You have a technology that finds the mines and you robotically take them out. But I don't know that much about the technology and the ways in which it can be defanged. James, Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson seem to think the Mossad is behind the death of Chuck Norris. Oh, I'm shocked. I think because Chuck Norris was going to go to Trump and tell him to stop the war. So the Mossad killed him, even though he was a huge friend of Israel's and pal of Netanyahu's and everything. So it's obvious the Mossad must have killed him. I mean, anybody who dies these days must have been killed by the Mossad. Anybody who might have Trump's ear was killed by the Mossad. It's pretty funny. But Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson are wacko, completely wacko. I had some videos of Tucker that I was going to show you. Maybe I'll do that another time. I'm trying to think what was on the videos. I forgot already. what crazy things he was saying. But people are starting to call him out. He's starting to go, oh, yeah. Oh, you got to, yeah, let me tell you about this. Might as well tell you. I won't show you the video. I'll just tell you. So Tucker Carlson has this video saying that Churchill, during World War II, imprisoned the opposition, put them in jail with their families. And this is an opposition leader who had fought in World War I on the British side, a great patriot. Now, of course, the opposition in Britain was not jailed. Everybody who was in Parliament was in Parliament. There was, the what's his name? Churchill's Conservatives, and there was the Labour Party, and they actually formed a coalition government during the war and became rivals after the war, and nobody was imprisoned. Who was imprisoned? The guy who was imprisoned was the head of the English Nazi Party. He was not the opposition because he was not in Parliament. He had never been elected to anything. But he was a Nazi. He literally married his wife in Goebbels' home in Germany. And he was let go in 1943 because they figured by that point he posed no threat. But earlier than that, it was deemed that he would be cooperating with the enemy. And during a time where Britain was struggling for its survival, fighting tooth and nail just to survive, yeah, it kind of makes sense to imprison him, but that's not the opposition. It's he's so sly and deceptive, but fundamentally deeply dishonest. Tucker is the most dishonest person in the media right now. Him and Candace, but Candace is crazy. Tucker, I think, is just calculatedly dishonest. Harper, as a general rule, should your investment portfolio be 80 stocks, 20 bonds? No, there is no general rule. You should, if you're young, you should have all stocks. As you get older, you should have more bonds. So there is no one rule, that governs that. It also depends on the environment. But generally, the older you are, the more bonds you should have. The younger you are, the more stocks you should have. I like numbers. How does he both have no strategy and using yours? Well, no, he had no strategy at the start of the war. So he wasn't prepared. He figured out he needed a strategy about a week to 10 days into the war. And then in week 2, he came up with a strategy that is very much what I said it should be. So I don't know if he took it from me or he took it from somebody else, but he did develop a strategy. It just took him 2 weeks to do it. Where and if it's going to take him months, it's going to take him weeks to implement it. And if he'd had a strategy at the beginning of the war, he would have implemented it from day one. Harper Campbell. Has the military not turned on Trump because he hasn't asked them to do anything that unethical? What he tried to pull with ICE, the public diffused fairly quickly. Well, I mean, what's going on with ICE is still going on. It's not that it's stopped. There's still stuff going on with ICE. It's just not quite as egregious. But I don't know. I don't know if the military would turn on Trump if he did something unethical. I hope they would. I assume they would, but I don't know that they would. I just don't know enough about who serves in commanding positions. I think the military, particularly after what's happening now, is pretty skeptical of Trump. They know their own capabilities, and I think they're skeptical of his commander-in-chief strategy. Richard. Richard said, I stepped on a sea urchin in Puerto Rico a long time ago. Keep eating them. Yes, eat them so they're not on the shore. They don't nobody will step on them. All right, we are $68 short, guys. 68. 3 more $20 questions, in one $8 questions, and we're there. It's not that hard. It's just and stickers. If you do $2 stickers and $1 stickers right now, we could really chip away at this. Value for value. All right, Jonathan, would limiting U.S. exports help prices here? Oh God, I mean, it would really be a bad thing, and you can't really do it. Again, our refineries cannot just use U.S. oil. We'd have to import some oil from like Venezuela and Canada, which are in a global market. And look, markets are good things. Markets send market signals which change behavior in a good way. Right now you want gasoline prices to go up significantly so that people use less of it. And so that the incentive to go out and make more of it rises. So no, limiting U.S. exports would be a massive mistake. It would be an attempt to get around market signals, which I think would ultimately blow up in America's face. Look, you shouldn't intervene in markets. Just leave markets alone. Hakon says, your conversation with Destiny was nearly a year ago. You had a good rapport with him. Round 2 sometime soon. Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's so many things that, there's so many stories I hear about Destiny that discredit him completely as a human being, not just as his ideas, that make me wary, but I'll probably do it. Clark, will Iran and Cuba both begin morphing into Western liberal democracies because of Trump's actions, even if it was never his intention? I think they would have anyway, but it would have taken a lot longer in terms of time. So I think what Trump has done, if he's successful, and he hasn't shown to be successful yet, but he was successful, is dramatically accelerated the pace at which Iran, Cuba, and maybe even Venezuela will move towards becoming more free places. Friend Harper says, PSA, Todd Fanny's book, Secrets of a Passionate Life, is now available on Audible. Read by Todd Fanny himself, $15. I plan on getting it soon and listening and reading along in the physical copy I got at Ocon. Excellent. Philosophy at Work. A good headline on Ehrlich's demise would have been, today, Paul Ehrlich achieved for himself his lifelong dream for humanity. I like that. So it turns out Philosophy at Work does have a sense of humor when he's not hiding it in, flirting with Merriman's, and all of us get it. It's pretty funny. He's pretty funny. So yes, that is I like that. I like that a lot. All right, if you plan on trading with me, value for value, then you probably got less than 5 minutes to do so because I've only got 4 questions left, and then we'll call it a day. Stephen, curious, if you started rereading Who Goes 93 yet? No, I haven't. Messiness in war, physically and morally, seems to be one of its themes. No? And the chapter on the loose cannon on the ship is fascinating. Thoughts? Oh, God. I'm going to have to pass on this question until I read it again. It's been a long time, and all I have is impressions, not a real memory of the details. So when I read it again, I will answer. I need to do that. I need to pause all my nonfiction books and read Who Goes 93 again. Neo, should governments withhold information about the progress of a war when communicating with the public is to not give away anything to the enemy? So you have to make the assessment. Basically, is the information you're making public helpful to the enemy or not? If it is helpful to the enemy, you probably should withhold it. But if it's not significantly in any way to the enemy, then no, you should actually be pro information. Remember, governments work for the people. So the people should know how the war is going. And releasing information to them is the way in which you inform them of that. So I think they need to release more information rather than less, unless it is threatening the progress of the war itself. Adam, I often enjoy the lectures of the historian Sarah Payne, and I seldom find anything inaccurate. Does she have any known connection to objectivism? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Has she ever mentioned Ayn Rand or objectivism, ominous parallels, or anything like that in her history lectures? But no, I don't know, Adam. Glad you enjoy her, and it's fantastic that there are good people out there. Stephen, I don't recall Rand talking about food in Romantic Manifesto. It is a recreation of reality based on values of the artist, the chef. Is it art? No, it's not art. Art is an end in itself. The purpose of food is eating, is to eat it. So it's not art, but it is aesthetic. It has an aesthetic dimension to it. As a lot of useful things do. So it is, but I wouldn't call it art. There's no metaphysical value judgments, I don't think, are being reflected in it. But again, it's even architecture is not really art because it has a purpose, it has a use, which dictates everything. And here, what dictates the art is, to a large extent, flavor. It's palate, how it tastes. It is a selective recreation, no doubt about that. Florida Nick, thank you for the sticker. See, Florida Nick just did $1.99, and it helps. And Benjamin just did 10 Swiss francs. That also helps. And we're chipped away. We've only got $33 left. But time, it's running out. Kabuktao. Why is management in the private sector usually not educated and they don't know that much about what they are managing and they make poor decisions? Well, I mean, is that true? I mean, if that were true, how is it that they create such values? How can they create such amazing products? I mean, when was the last time an airplane fell out of the sky? I mean, it's really, really, really rare. And look at, those are businesses. Managers must be making good decisions. Same is true of almost, managers who build iPhones. I mean, so I don't know that that's generalizable. There are some managers that are not very good, but most managers are pretty damn good and they know what they're doing. And that's what allows the world to function. If managers were as bad as you suggest, the modern world could not function. It would be everything, literally everything, would be falling apart. And it's not. Things are pretty damn good. All right, guys. Thank you to all the super chatters and stickers and question askers and everybody. Thank you to all of you for listening. Don't forget to become supporters of the Yaron Brook Show on Patreon, patreon.com. Just put in Yaron Brook Show, become a monthly supporter. And don't forget to like the show before you leave. Press that like button. Doesn't cost you anything, but helps with the algorithm. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. You'll get announcements every time I go live and every time I post a video, even not live videos, short videos, all the other videos, lecture videos that I've done, and so on. So, yeah, please subscribe. See you. Oh, tomorrow and Sunday. I think Sunday will be a members-only show. I'm pretty sure Sunday will be a members-only show doing one of Ayn Rand's essays. I will let you know as soon as I figure it out. Probably tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Talk to you soon.